Hi, Nancy. I don't know if you can hear me. We've got Kenneth joining as well. Kenneth, I don't know if you're having problems at the moment joining in. Nancy, let me know if you can hear me and see me. I've just got a black screen for you, Nancy.
Yes, I can see you
Oh, excellent. Okay. Is it
and here.
morning, Colin? Is a bit early for you, Nancy, is it?
A little bit.
It's okay. You don't have to come on camera if you really don't want to. I've got Kenneth, bless him, with three devices trying to get in, but failing. So I'm going to give him a couple of more moments and see if there's anyone else joining. We had 16 people say we were going to come, but I have had a couple of apologies as well. So, oh, we've got Joe who's coming in. Kenneth, yeah, I think you're having major problems getting in, so hopefully you can join us. But if not, don't worry. I will send the recording to you. Morning, Joe. Or I should say afternoon. It's midday now. Afternoon, Joe. And we've got Tom joining as well. Hi, Tom. How are you doing?
Hi, Vitaly. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everyone, by the way. Am I still allowed to say it? It's the 10th of January. Am I still allowed to say Happy New Year? I think
I,
so. I'm going to say Happy New Year, I think. Okay, so we're going to get started in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to see if there's any more people joining us. Because, yep, we've got some more people joining right now. I did have 16 or 17 people say they were going to come, so I'm going to leave it for a couple of minutes. Does anyone want to tell me how their New Year's been? Has it been good? Has it been bad so far? Any stories? Just me? Just me want to share my stories then? So I've had a really weird start to the new year. So my mother collapsed on New Year's Eve. I had to call emergency services. So it wasn't a great start to the new year. The good news is she doesn't have, it wasn't a heart attack or stroke. That was my biggest worry. Um, but it looks like there's something wrong with the statin that she's on. And it's kind of got me worried because I don't know. It's like you get put on all this medication, but then the side effects of the medication seem to be sometimes worse than what it's meant to be fixing. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I'm kind of having to navigate all of that at the moment. So that's been really interesting. I've just got a message, Joe. Just going to leave and rejoin because mine hasn't worked, probably because it was on Google Teams. Thank you, Anna Breeze. Yes, she will be fine. She'll be fine. We just have to, I think we just have to navigate things. And I think what's been really difficult, Anna Breeze, is like luckily because I have my own business, I'm a publishing consultant. I work from home, so I'm at home most of the time. But I do need to go off and do events, do meetings, that sort of thing. And it's just made me extremely worried about just leaving her in the house on her own. So I've been looking into things like fall monitors and personal alarms and cameras. I don't like the idea of cameras. I don't want to spy on my mother. So but on the other hand, I need to know what's happening with us. It brings up so many different emotions. But anyway, I'll let you know how things go over the next few weeks, because we've got to make some big decisions really regarding our mother's care going forward for the next decade or so, really. So but I'm sure most people have gone through this with their parents. It's just one of those things that we have to do, really. Okay, so let's get started. I think I've still got a few people trying to get in, but struggling with their devices, but I'll just admit them and hopefully they'll be able to get in. Okay, so today we are talking about how to make your book inspiring, or the 6 secrets. And I call them secrets because a lot of people don't know them. That's the whole part of secrets, really. A lot of people don't know these secrets. And in fact, what even makes a book inspiring is something that a lot of people don't actually know. So let me just go to my slides. Give me 2 moments. Okay, so can everyone see my slides? Can I get a thumbs up so I know that everyone can see my slides? Excellent, thank you, Colin. Okay, so let me just go to the first slide. Okay, so this is going to be our agenda. We're only going to run for about 45 minutes, so actually less than 45 minutes now, because we've been talking for about 5 minutes. So we're going to talk for the first 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to talk about the 6 secrets to create an inspiring book. And this may surprise some of you, what actually creates an inspiring book. So I want you to take this and apply this, not just to your books, but you'll be able to apply this to everything, really, everything in your life, in business and in your personal life. And then part 2, this is the exciting bit. This is why I call this the Thought Leader Author Forum. It's not a webinar. It's not a masterclass or a workshop. It's very interactive. It's not just I talk, you listen, take notes, and then go away. That's not what this is about. This is a forum. So I want you to ask me questions. I want you to ask me, like, how does this fit in with my book idea? Or if you have other ideas and it sparks off ideas, share them with me and the rest of the forum, because that's how we learn. And I find that is usually the most exciting bit. I get bored of talking sometimes, really. I love listening to you guys. So part 2 is I'll be taking questions on how these ideas apply to your particular book idea and any other questions you have. Okay, so what makes a book inspiring? It's not what you think. I did a poll on Monday. I had nearly 40 votes, so a decent number of people voting, okay? And I asked them, what is the most inspiring element in nonfiction books? What makes, a book an inspiring read? 56% went with stories, 21% with practical advice, 13% with author passion, and 10% with other. 56, so more than half of the people who responded to this poll said stories. And yet I'm here to tell you they're wrong. Well, no, they're not. They're not actually. I don't want to say they're wrong. Stories are inspiring. It's absolutely true. Stories are inspiring. I always say there's a reason why every single religious text on this planet is written in stories, because they don't need to be. The Bible doesn't need to be written in parables. It could just be a list of do's and don'ts of being a good human being. And then it'd be less than a tenth of the size and it'd be much easier to get through. And yet the Bible isn't. It's full of stories. And the reason why is stories do inspire people. It allows people to put themselves in another person's shoes and really imagine what it feels like. And that inspires and also embeds learning. Humans are notoriously bad at remembering facts and figures, but put those very facts and figures into a story, wrap them in a story, and now people can remember them. So that's why stories are so important. And that is why, as you see, 56% of people who responded to this poll said it was stories that make an inspiring read. They're not wrong. However, how many of you have read an inspiring book but then implemented nothing from it? You just thought, wasn't that amazing? I just recently rewatched The Pursuit of Happiness. It's a great movie, with Will Smith down and out and how he overcomes everything, and it's wonderful. But I do feel good at the end of the end of the movie. But do I really do anything with it beyond that? Absolutely not. And the kind of people that I work with B Corp founders, social entrepreneurs, ethical business owners. You guys don't just want to inspire people while they're reading and then they just put your book down and off they go. You want to inspire them to such an extent that they change something that they're doing at the moment. Yes? So that's what I mean by truly inspiring. And stories alone can't do that. In fact, the right answer, if you want to call it the right answer, is practical advice. And what I mean by that is advice that helps somebody go from A, which is I don't know something, I don't know how to do something, to B, which is I know something or I can do something. That is a truly inspiring book because, and I'm going to go through this in a minute. If any of you have done teaching or anything like that, you'll be aware of Bloom's revised taxonomy of learning. This is, I really want you to take this on board. This is what truly creates an inspiring book. A lot of people say it's stories and anecdotes, and yes, it does, but that's inspiration while someone's reading. You want to inspire somebody beyond reading. So they don't just put the book down and get on with their life, but they actually change something. And the way to do that is advice that helps somebody go from A to B. Now, this is Bloom's revised taxonomy of learning. This was wonderful for me when I heard about this a few years ago, because it really made me understand how human beings learn. And if you look at the bottom, and then you work your way all the way up to the top, if you can incorporate as many of these into your book, what you will have now is not just a book that inspires in the here and now, but actually inspires them to make that change, to do something differently after they've read the book. Okay, so the bottom, you've got remembering facts. So allowing them to, giving them ways to remember facts. Then it's understanding concepts, then applying processes, then analyzing results, evaluating options, and creating new knowledge. Now, let me give you examples of how I've done this in my book, how my clients have done this in their books, and that way that can give you an idea, okay? So at the bottom, you've got remembering facts, okay? So an example is, say you're writing a book about, carbon emissions, and you want your reader to not just read your book and then forget about it, because this is a sad truth. We have become, as a species, we've become voracious content consumers. It's because of the internet. We now have more content at our fingertips than we've ever had in the history of humankind, which means we now just passively consume content, but a lot of the times we don't do anything with the content. Okay, so for example, for Remember Facts, you might want people to not just read your book and then forget about it, but then once they've read the book, to retain some of the information so they can actually speak to other people about it. So for example, in here, you would want that person to not just learn about carbon emissions, but actually retain the facts about carbon emissions so they can talk to a friend about it at a dinner party or wherever they are. Yeah, so a great way to do that is you can create end of chapter quizzes. If you look at my book, that's exactly what I've done. At the end of each chapter, just a short quiz, 3 or 4 questions, but it gets my reader to stop and not just move on to the next chapter and forget about the chapter that they've already read, but actually think, oh, hang on, did I retain that? And guess what? When they don't retain it, they can't help but go back into that chapter to find the answer to that question. So that's a really, really easy way of getting people to remember and recall what they've just read in that chapter. Yeah. The next one up on the triangle is understanding concepts. So for example, in your book, you're wanting to explain helping people buy ethical products, because it's an issue, isn't it? There's so much greenwashing going on at the moment. So maybe your book, or maybe a chapter in particular, is about how a consumer is able to choose ethical products. Now you can just give them a list. You can just say, this is how you choose ethical products. But it's much better if you can wrap that into case studies. If you give case studies of how other people have done it, that really embeds. Yeah, so it allows them to really understand the concept. This goes back a little bit to stories. Case studies essentially are a type of story, and it really, really does help people remember and also understand a concept rather than just throwing facts and figures at them. Yes. Now, some people do ask me, some people have said in the past, well, can I use, they're worried about the legalities of using case studies in their books. I would say something that's already in the public domain, you don't need any permission. For example, if you wanted to include, the Shell oil spill that happened in Nigeria in 2011. That's all over Google. You know, there's so many reports being written about it. Put it this way, Shell are not going to come after you and try and sue you because you talk about it in your book. It is in the public domain. However, if you're bringing new information to light, then strictly speaking, you should get permission. Okay. However, in general, if you're speaking in glowing terms, then it doesn't, I can't see anybody being upset when you're saying something nice about them in their book. It's usually when you're saying something not so nice about them. And then that becomes the gray area. If you're trying to say something, but you need to say something about this company or brand or whatever, they're not going to give you permission to say something negative. But then you really do want to say, and this is where you get into the gray area. This is all about you realizing what kind of risk you want to take, what you're willing to take. Okay. I'm not a lawyer. So the best advice I can give you is actually speak to a lawyer if you're worried, but just wanted to give you that little bit of information regarding case studies. So the next one is applying processes. So this is the further you go up, you're really inspiring people at this stage. They're going far beyond just consuming content, and they're actually now gone into implementation. Okay. So an example, find out why planes affect climate change on the internet. You actually tell them to go and find out, and you give them guided tasks. Don't just go and tell them to, you know, just because they could end up on Lord knows what kind of site giving them information that's not correct. But you give them guided tasks. Get them to do something. That's the key element here. Get them to do something. I'm the sort of person that really struggles to learn from just watching or listening. I have to actually do something before it really embeds. So get people to put their book down, put your book down, and go and do something, apply the processes, and then this really help them to actually bed in that learning. And then and the fact that you've actually got them to do something means they've already done it now. So now that stands them in good stead to carry on doing that thing. Yeah. Next thing is analyzing results. Okay, so this is something my clients do. I know Colin's one of my clients. Colin has already done this. So this is a step within the planning process that my clients do, where we go, well, they go and they find 3 to 5 books that have been written in their subject matter. And they figure out what these books, what these authors have done well, what they've not done so well, what they're missing. And the goal is to help them write the best book on the market by doing the research. So this is a brilliant way. And you can do this in your book. You can get people to go off, go and do something and make their own analysis and even report it back. I've even had clients where they've even left a couple of blank pages at the end of each chapter, and they've encouraged people to write in these blank pages to do their own analysis. Yeah. And again, it's getting people to do something, and reporting it takes it even further. So the previous one was applying processes, as in doing some research. This takes it even further. When you do research and you get people to report it back, there's something about physically writing or typing something. It really beds into your brain then. Yeah. And then going further from that, evaluating options. So for example, perhaps your book is helping people to pick certain software tools for their business, for example. You can set them a guided task and show them how to go and evaluate their options that's specific to their business or their brand or their organization. And again, it's getting them to get off their backside, put your book down and go and do something and evaluate. And then the final one right at the top of the triangle is creating new knowledge. This is when you go beyond evaluating, you're actually now creating, well, how do I say it? You're actually creating a new world for them. So you're getting them to take that information that's in your book and co-creating a new world where they are able to do something or know something or share something. So here's an example. This is one of my clients. My client is an activist, and what he helps to do is he helps other activists show how they can use video footage to really explain what their activism and get more people on board with their activism. Yeah. So it could be that he put this towards the end of his book. He wanted that person to go and plan video and deliver a live presentation, and then they had to go and edit the footage. And he even said, you can email it to me and I will critique it. How brilliant is that? Because what that meant was loads of people thought, oh my God, I need to go and do that. And once they've done that, these are people who were previously thought they were so scared to do anything live and didn't really have the technical know-how on how to edit the footage. Once they did that and sent it to him, they've done the main thing. Now they can carry on doing that for the rest of their lives because they've done something. Can you see how important that is? This is the key thing that I want you to remember. And by the way, if you've been scribbling notes, that's fine, but I will send you this workbook tomorrow, which has everything that I've discussed and more, showing you exactly how to make your book inspiring. But this is, I really want you to remember this. This is the key thing. Stories are inspiring. Absolutely, they're inspiring. You want to talk about inspiring people, inspiring stories. You want to put that in your book. But what you ultimately want is people to change after reading a book. That is true inspiration. Even when people don't know it, you know, like if people are not even aware what really inspires them. That's why 56% of people chose stories. But true inspiration is beyond stories. It's something that makes people change. And the way you change people is by doing this, implementing as much of this as you can into your book. One of the nicest things that anyone's ever said to me about my book is that it was a gentleman who said that he felt like he was in a workshop with me. I thought, isn't that, I mean, now most people would think, well, is that really all that cool? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure people have said nicer things about your book. Yeah, in language terms, people have said nicer things about my book. But in real terms, that's the nicest thing. One of the nicest things you can say is that it felt like this gentleman was in a workshop with me. And that's what it should feel like, because when you feel like a book is almost like a workshop, then you're actively engaged in it. You're not just a passive content consumer, like most books sadly deliver. It makes that person feel they're part of the process, and you as the author are co-creating a new world for them, a world where they're able to now know something or do something that they weren't able to do before. That is true inspiration. When you get people to really change what they're doing or what they know, that is real inspiration. Yeah. So let me stop sharing because I can see we've got quite a lot of messages. So give me 2 moments. Anyone got any questions that you want to throw at me while I'm going through these messages? Feel free to unmute and oh, Deepak, an ADD species. Oh yes, so you're talking about, yes, Deepak, absolutely correct. Yes, we are. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, it's wonderful to have so much information, but then we have become just content consumers now. We don't really do a lot with the content. Would recommend them to watch a video work for this one. Joe, which one were you talking about?
It was the one about applying processes. I think you probably answered it, because I was going to say, well, could you say go and watch a video and then think about it, but maybe they need a bit more of a task to do.
And that's the evaluating step. That's what it's all about. You can actually, so it's each one is nudging it and making it even. So the most basic one is remembering facts, you know. But then some people get very good at remembering facts. I remember I was the last year in this country, in the UK, I was the last year that took what they were called GCSEs. Then they changed to Key Stage 4 or something like that, I think it did. I was the last year that was the true GCSEs. And the reason why I changed it to Key Stage 4, and I'm glad they did, was the GCSEs were very based on just recalling facts. But how are you going to use those facts? So what you had is like a generation of, so someone like me who's very good at remembering facts, I was getting A's all around. Didn't necessarily mean I was all that intelligent. I was just very good in exam situations because I could remember facts and I worked well under pressure. But then you had other kids in my year who were probably more intelligent than me, but weren't very good at remembering facts and weren't really good, but they were very good at applying the facts. So surely that person is actually more intelligent than me. Can you see what I mean? So that's what I want you to think about in your book, Joe. And I know you said you've actually made a lot of progress in your book over Christmas and New Year. So well done. You've obviously been very busy. Uh, keeping fingers crossed, yeah. But yeah, try and think of like, how do you get people to apply this knowledge? The more you can get people to just not even actually have to put the book physically down, but just pause and think. We're you know, we are a species that just seems to consume content on this huge scale, and we're doing nothing with this content. And that's what you don't want your book to do. You want your book to actually inspire change. And by all means, throw in the stories. I've already said how important stories are, but I think people just think it's the stories and the quotes that are inspiring, and they don't realize, no, you've got to help people actually do something, actually implement something. Yeah. Anna Breeze, I've released my book. Is just getting the word. Oh, well done, Anna Breeze. When did this? I don't know if you want to come off mute and tell us. So when did you release it? Is that just it's just recently, or has it been a while, or because it's been a while since I spoke to you?
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Matali. Yeah, I released it November the 23rd. And then I just kind of did a couple of free promo days around December, around my birthday. A lot of people downloaded it. And it's just now it's the new year, and it's just a case of, getting the word out and learning to market. And like what you're talking about here is just continuing that sort of engagement with the content so that people can get involved and create an interactive experience for them, that will inspire them to, one, buy the book, but also, continue to work with me through like a course or coaching.
Well, this is the wonderful thing, Annabelle. So what I've just taught you is, obviously I always talk in terms of books because that's what I do. So of course I'm going to talk in terms of books. But the Bloom's taxonomy of learning is something that you can apply to everything. So you can apply this to all of your business content. Again, if you can get people to just stop and do something.
Yeah.
That really is different, because again, on social media, we're just sat there consuming content. It's just consuming. If you can get somebody to stop and go, oh, hang on a minute, I'll just go and do that, I'll just think of something different, or just get them to stop. So and that's, again, you can use Bloom's taxonomy of learning for that. And also in personal life, I've been talking about Bloom's taxonomy of learning to one of my neighbors who's teaching his teenage son to drive, which sounds like hell on earth, to be honest, teaching a college going. And it sounds, Colin, it sounds like you've actually got some personal experience on this, have you?
On what?
On teaching children to drive, or teenagers to drive, have you?
Oh no. See.
And I can't imagine the stress my dad experienced.
I don't have children, and if I did, I'd be like, no, let me just pay for you to go and get lessons from someone else.
That's what he did. After 3 or 4 hair-raising drives around the neighbourhood, he just said, I'm paying.
I can't imagine. It's the dynamics between parent and child should not go into teaching people to drive. But yeah, I actually was talking about Bloom's taxonomy of learning to one of my neighbors who's teaching his teenage son to drive because they don't have the money to get him regular lessons. And he was saying how, and I was saying, but are you just throwing facts at him? Or you're just basically saying, now the indicator needs to go on, and then and then I showed him the Bloom's and he was like, oh, okay. It's like, engage him more, give him tasks to do, and he's like, okay, see, even things like that, it can actually help you. And I can't stress this enough. This is true inspiration. Lots of people will fight me on this. Lots of people say, no, that's not what causes inspiration, because they remember the amazing stories. They read someone's autobiography and it's like, yeah, but what did you actually implement from that? And then they go quiet. So this is the difference. Do you want to just inspire people during your book, or do you want to inspire them long beyond the book, to the point where they don't even know they've been inspired, but they've now changed? They're a different human being.
Mitali, I'm thinking, when I wrote down the second bit, case study, I think it's about how you write the case study. In that, can you write it in a way that feels relatable to them, accessible to them? Is it something that you did or that you've heard about that you can write about in a way that the reader thinks, oh, I could do that as well?
That's it. That's it. That's exactly what it is. It's case studies are a great way of just demonstrating, you know, you or other people, so they can sort of, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And that's what you want them to think, you know, and that's what works for me whenever I read case studies. Yes, Sanabries, stories help with relatability. It just makes you feel like, well, I can do it as well, because they
Well,
do
there's a
it.
lot of stories I've read recently that some of the chief executive of Google or something like that, and it actually is not relatable. You know, the way they write it, you
Yeah.
feel like you have to have a team of supermen or women,
Yeah.
and that you have to be, the best possible in the field, and that only this group of superhumans could do this, and it doesn't feel
Doesn't feel, yeah.
something
Well,
I could do. So I actually put the book down because I thought, well, this is actually not for me. It's somebody else.
well, it's a shame. I'd love to. I'd love to be like a fly on the wall when they were planning this book, and maybe that. I mean, it could be that's what they wanted. Maybe their audience, you know, their target reader was different. So
Oh,
they,
quite probably, yeah.
that could be. So in that sense, they didn't fail. Then they were speaking to a specific target audience or target reader who fit that demographic, or they failed. And that happens. It's amazing how many quite famous books, when I look through it, still I would be like, there's so much, this could have been so much better. So it could be that you are the target audience, Colin. And in that case, they failed then, because what they've done is they've used case studies that weren't relatable. But obviously, I don't know the machinations behind that, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's making your target reader feel related to that person, whether that's you or somebody else that you're the case study is about. That's what works.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Any other questions? Who have we lost? I think I've just lost.
I'll ask one.
Yes, go for it. Oh,
Okay.
give me just two. Let me just. I think there's somebody else trying to get in that I. Oh, bless. Kenneth has been trying. Kenneth, are you in now? Because I think I've got another one of your devices trying to get. You've had a hell of a time trying to get into this, haven't you? Oh, he's on Sunday. Okay. Now, so before Nancy talks, I just wanted to mention that I would love to speak to you. Colin's already one of my awesome clients, so I see him all the time. But the rest of you, I'd love to speak to you on a one-to-one if you do have any more questions and you're looking to write your book this year. Okay, so let me show you how you can do that. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so see if you can see that. So these are some of the results that our clients have had. So we help them get shows. They're able to charge more for what they do. That's really important, especially as a conscious business owner. I think sometimes we don't want to talk about money and profits and that sort of thing. You can't make the biggest impact if you're not making money. So this is what we help with our clients. We help them get more referrals. This is the journey. So this is the journey that Colin is right on at the moment. He's at plan and write at the moment. These are the 3 stages. You need to make sure all 3 stages are there, are intact. Otherwise, writing a book just doesn't work. So you have plan and write, edit, design, and publish, and market and PR. Okay. And then we've mapped out the road for you. So we take out all the overwhelm. We've mapped it out for you. So we'll help you through the planning, the writing, we'll help you through the publishing, and we'll help you through the marketing and PR. And just some examples of the things that my clients have been able to do. They've been able to get on nationwide TV. They're working with influencers. They've been in numerous newspapers. So this is what we would do on a thought leader strategy session. So part 1 would be, we'll discuss where you are now and where you'd like to be in 12 months. Part 2 is what process will get you there. This is the bit where you can ask these questions. So, questions that have been asked already regarding how do I make my book inspiring and how do I implement case studies? And, Colin just asked regarding how to make case studies relatable. This is where we'll discuss that specific to you on how we're going to get your book to where it needs to be. And then part 3, only if the thought leader ecosystem fits what you need for the next 12 months, then I'll be able to go through the program, go through costs and that sort of thing. So let me show you how you can book that. So all you have to do is, if you just go to my booking link, I'll put that in the chat in a couple of moments, and you just book in. I'm sure most of you know how to use Calendly. I've got I did have a 12 p.m. Has someone already taken that? I wonder if one of you've just taken that. I did have a 12 p.m., but it's already gone. So I've got a couple of slots tomorrow, and then I do have some more slots on the 18th and 19th. So if you want to have a chat and really make 2024 the year that you finally become a published author, let's have a chat. So let me put that into... okay, so I'm going to put this link into the chat for any of you. Oh, Anna Breeze had to leave. That's fine. Thank you, Anna Breeze. Okay, so that's in the chat now. Okay, Nancy, you had a question.
Yes, hi, thank you.
Hello there.
I got a master's degree in education.
Oh,
and
wow. So you'll know more about this than I will. This is awesome.
Well, just they had us doing a lot of things. One of the things they suggested was having a quiz before the class. So it would be like introducing vocabulary. Like, let's say you were teaching about the planets. You would say which planet, Saturn does blah, 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 what is blah, blah, blah. So you'd be introducing the words, the vocabulary, that was, and then at the end you'd, go through the quiz and it was easy because the course taught it.
I'm trying to see if that would work. That's very interesting. Thank you for that, Nancy. See, this is why I love it being a forum, because if it was just like a mass, it's just me chatting, but then I don't learn, and the wonderful thing about having a forum is I'm learning. So let me see how that works in a book. So what you're saying is, so let me actually use my book as an example. So in my book, what I've done, let me actually turn my treadmill off, because while I'm doing this, I don't want to be falling off when I'm trying to. That's the last thing you want, to see me falling backwards into a bookcase. So what I've done in my book, and a lot of my clients have done this, is, so for example, here we've got chapter 1. Ooh, and that's all about how to use your book to get dream clients, because we've all had experiences with nightmare clients and you're thinking, oh my God, I never want to attract any more of those people. So you can use your book to attract the right kind of clients into your business or brand. And then what I've done is, at the end of the chapter, as you can see, it's three questions, and just gets them to recall. So are you saying maybe an idea would be put those questions at the beginning of the chapter and get them to guess, and they probably make wrong guesses, but then do it and then have the chapter and then give them the right answers? That's very interesting.
It's kind of like saying in advance, listen, you're not going to know any of these answers, or hardly, you probably won't know the answers. Just, this is a pre-quiz. So just have fun with it.
Yeah, just see what, I love that. I've learned something new, I think. What do you think, Colin? Maybe we can do that in your book.
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking that immediately. I'm thinking you could say, I don't know, one of my chapters is going to be cash flow management. So you could easily have some questions about financial indicators, cash flow. What is cash flow? How do you do it? I don't know. You could easily just spur that thought, and then the chapter could be kind of what I intended to be. A discussion about how you manage it and what simple things you can do, on the basis that an awful lot of people that I talk to don't do it currently, so they don't actually know what it is. They kind of half know, but they don't really know. So I think, yeah, there's something in that. I think we could prompt them to read by asking them the questions and think, oh, I actually don't know the answer to that, and hopefully this chapter is going to give me that answer.
And the wonderful thing about this, Colin and Nancy, thank you so much for this. I'm learning this, and I'm just trying to think how I incorporate this with my current clients. But the wonderful thing about that is what you're really, how it's how people feel. It's the mindset. I think sometimes, especially first-time authors, are not really thinking about the psychology behind a reader, and by doing that, by showing them or getting them to answer questions before a chapter and then getting them to look at those questions again at the end of the chapter, what you've shown them is how far they've grown in that chapter. That's huge. That really excites a reader and makes them want. How many people have started a book and then two chapters in, then they put the book down and they haven't, and then it's like, oh yeah, I started that book, it's actually quite good, but then I got busy and then they still haven't finished the book. It's almost like what you've just explained there, Nancy, is almost like what I call the Breaking Bad effect. You get those, you've seen TV shows like that you say you're only going to watch one episode, but then it always ends at a cliffhanger, so you then have to go to the next one. And then it becomes addictive. And the next thing you know, you've lost a whole weekend because you've binge watched the entire thing. That's what you're almost doing with a book, is you're exciting people. It's like, oh my God, I before these last 15 pages, I didn't know any about this. And now I can do this. So then that makes them want to go to the next chapter and they go, oh, I don't know that. But if I just get to the end of this chapter, I'm going to be able to do this. That's really exciting. I like that.
Yeah, I tell you what I'm thinking there, Nancy. It's really helpful, actually. I'm thinking that you could kind of almost split a case study up in half. Because a lot of case studies start with, I didn't know how to do, I couldn't, I wasn't, I was failing, whatever the beginning part of the story. And that almost you can formulate questions there in the form of a quiz, if you like, but you could have some open questions at the front. I was struggling with cash flow. I didn't know what it was. Do you know what it is? You could make that kind of quite conversational, quite engaging, and then go through the process using the case study as maybe an anchor, come out the other end and say, so, hey guys, now we know what it is. We've worked on it. I did it. You can do it. I think there's a kind of narrative arc there within each chapter.
Yeah. That's why I call it the Breaking Bad effect, because that was, there's apparently there's another show on Netflix that's just dropped a couple of days ago that's now #1 in all the countries, because they're using that same thing where people just say, I can't stop watching this thing. I have to
you've got to watch the cliffhanger.
Yeah, you've got to watch it, which is not great for us.
At the moment in our formula is a standalone chapter. You've got to summon the energy to engage with that new chapter.
Yeah.
And you get the quiz at the end or the case study or whatever, and you think, oh great, I've solved it. But what Nancy's bringing forward is a way of engaging us to read that chapter, start that chapter.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Nancy. That was really, really good. It's kind of made me think in the future, like, because obviously I will do a third edition of my book, but I'm thinking of not rewriting it, but actually just maybe putting the quizzes in the beginning and then again at the end. And also what Colin says, splitting up my case studies. At the moment, my case studies are my case studies, the entire story. But that's a good idea as well. You can have the case studies and break them up. So this is what they're experiencing, but then have a part B of the same case study later on in the chapter as to how they solved it. So that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm liking that. I think it fits well with my studies, my stories. It fits well. And I think you could ask those open questions, what do you know at the moment? And let's go on the journey together to find out.
Yeah, I love it. And it really demonstrates how everyone likes to know how far they've come. It's a nice feeling. It's nice it's like getting on top of a mountain. You look down and you go, oh my God, I've actually walked all of that. I didn't think I'd be able to do it, but I'm up here. And, just an hour ago, I was down there. So it's a nice feeling. It's essentially the same thing, really, isn't it? It's kind of putting markers, or lines in the sand saying, this is where you were. Look at where you are now. That's very exciting and very, it's very exciting and quite, delicious as a reader to be like, oh, look at what I've already achieved. And then you just want to carry on achieving. So you want to carry on with the next chapter. Thank you for that, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful. I've got to go actually now, Matani, but I'll see you
Yes,
later
not
on.
a problem. Well, we've come to close. If we've got any more, Nancy, do you have any more questions?
Well, just think of chapter headings being kind of like a mystery puzzle, kind of like a question, like, what does that mean? You know, like, or just something that engages the chapter. If you have chapter headings, what?
Yes,
Yeah, just an
I like
idea,
that.
similar idea. Yeah,
I
thank you.
like that. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
well,
Nancy.
thank you, Colin. Thank you for coming. Deepak, Kenneth, I know that you've been, maybe you're just somewhere where you can't actually come off mute, and that's fine. But I hope you enjoy that. Thank you, Deepak, for interacting in the chat. I really, really appreciate it. It said from survivor to creator is the ultimate win. Yes, very true. Yes, gamification is key. Gamification is key. It really, really is. Okay, so we seem to have lost quite a few people, but I understand that. Something else that's quite new that I've brought into the Thought Leader Author Forum is that just for attending, you can get the vegan publisher, our business, to donate to a cause on your behalf. Okay, so let me just quickly go back to my slide. In fact, no, yeah, I'll go back to my slide. So give me 2 moments. So if I go here, so just for attending the Thought Leader Author Forum, you can choose to provide one medical treatment in the world, provide 100 days of access to clean water, provide 10 days of education, or give 200 days of medical protection to street dogs in Nepal. Okay, so that's just my way. It's something that it was my big I hate having New Year's resolutions, but it was my big New Year's resolution this year, was to make the giving that I do as the founder of the vegan publisher more interactive. So previously what I did was a certain percentage of my profits went to a number of charities. There were a mixture of animal charities, environmental charities, and social enterprises. Social impact charities. But I made those decisions. And what I really love now is I partnered with this wonderful organization for Business for Good. They're based in the US, but they operate in globally. And what they now do is allowed me to gamify. So this is what remembered me, because this is what reminded me, Deepak, because he said gamification is gamification is everything. We never stop being kids, basically. As adults, we're really just big kids. We still love to be entertained and surprised and have fun. And that's what games do. So we never, ever lose that. And what this is a Business for Good has allowed me to do is now gamify the giving as well, which is wonderful, which means every time you attend the forum, I will put the link in the chat now. I'll also email it to you, so don't worry if you don't copy it from the chat right now. But you are able to go there and you're able to pick one of these causes, and you just click the button, and then we have given on your behalf to your cause. And I've gamified the entire thing. So even just coming to have a strategy session with me, just having a one-to-one with me, you'll also be able, it's another set of causes, 4 causes that you can choose from, and then you can make a difference just by attending a strategy session. So I will put this link in the chat now. Nancy, thank you. Hello, Deepak. How are you doing? I hope I didn't make you feel bad enough to actually put your camera on, but I do like seeing your face. So let me put this link in the chat now. So feel free to click on that now and make your choice. But I love it. I love the fact that now my people, the people who come to the forum, my clients, everybody, you guys can help me choose the causes rather than just me choosing and then just donating a percentage of my profits. You guys can now be interactive and help me make the best choices regarding the organizations and the causes that I help. So thank you very much for that. Did you have another question, Deepak?
No, I just want to say thank you for hosting these. I want to come to one of these, and I was finally able to today. So thank you.
Yes, no, well, thank you for coming. I know it's because you're a few hours ahead of us, so you're coming towards the end of the day now, aren't you?
It's pretty okay still. It's 6, half past 6 almost. So
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming. And yeah, we do these every Wednesday. So whenever you're free, do come and join us, Deepak. And then obviously you get the chance to make an impact just for coming as well.
Yeah, that's definitely one reason to come for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I'm going to close the forum for this week. Kenneth, I hope you found this informative. I know you had some difficulty getting in, but I hope you found this informative. Nancy, thank you so much for coming as well. And yes, hopefully I will see you at another forum on Wednesdays very, very soon. Bye for now.